Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. It's Jay. Man, if you're new, hit that subscribe button. It means the fucking world to me. To all my subscribers, thank you. Hey, this is a crazy story, so buckle up. This is my Ibogaine experience. Now, I don't know if everybody knows what Ibogaine is, so I'm just going to go into a little, brief explanation of what it is. And then I'm going to tell you my story and my experience with it. So, Ibogaine, for those of you who don't know, is a psychoactive drug. It's like a psychedelic drug. It's a root, if I remember correctly, and it's actually the bark off the root that contains Ibogaine, which is like a psychoactive, whatever, chemical. Like, think like LSD, peyote, whatever. It's a psychedelic, right? It's a hardcore psychedelic. Shit is crazy. So the effects is it's like it paralyzes you. It's paralytic, so your body can't move. It induces like crazy hallucinations, and you throw up. You fucking throw up like crazy. So, but the interesting thing about it is it was being studied, maybe still is being studied, looked at, and used currently to treat opiate addiction and actually also alcohol addiction as well. The theory behind it is that somehow it like resets your brain to the way it was before you were addicted to the substances. Because what's crazy about Ibogaine is they've looked at people's brains like under MRIs while they were on it, and it affects every single receptor in the brain. Like the entire brain lights up. And this is different than any other drug. Like most drugs only hit specific receptors, like they either will affect dopamine or serotonin, whatever. No, Ibogaine hits every single receptor in the brain. Very interesting, including the opioid receptors. So this is the theory behind it, basically, and they're using it currently. Like there are clinics right now. I'm not sure if it's legal in America at this point. You'll see in my story, they are legal in Mexico. So, spoiler alert, I ended up going to Mexico to do this, but we're going to get there. So, it's supposed to be effective, right? At least that's what I heard, and this is what I led to believe, and this is why I wanted to go try it. It was supposed to be an effective treatment for opioid addiction. And at this point, I had been shooting dope for a while. My life was pretty fucking crazy. I was selling drugs, quite a bit, to be honest, at the time, mostly weed, but I was spending like all my fucking money just on heroin. And it was crazy. And I had a girlfriend at the time, and she was fed up with it. And I didn't want to go to rehab because I was like, fuck that, I just don't want to do that. I just didn't want to do that. So my solution, I decided I wanted to try Ibogaine. I'd heard about it. I watched a few documentaries on YouTube, whatever, about it. And I was like, you know what, man? I want to give it a try. I want to do this. Because I had been dabbling in psychedelics my whole life. Like, I like mushrooms and LSD and that kind of stuff. So I kind of thought it would be like a good time. That's what I thought. So anyway, luckily, like I said, I was whatever selling drugs at the time. So I had money. So I booked myself, I got a reservation, whatever, at one of these clinics in Mexico. Can't remember the actual name of the clinic right now off the top of my head, but maybe I'll post it in the comments if I'll go look it up, because that'd actually just be a blast, whatever, blast from the past memory to see that place again. Can't remember the name anyway, but it was $10,000. That was the cost to stay at this resort. It was for like drug detox / resort. That's what they like basically advertise it as. So it's 10 G's, not including the plane ticket. I booked it and I paid in cash. And they were like, what the fuck? Because I like brought the cash with me, on the plane like an idiot. Like luckily I didn't get stopped or like nothing happened. I made it through, but I showed up with like 10 G's in cash to pay this fucking Ibogaine clinic. Anyway, so, oh man, the plane ride is a whole nother thing. So whatever. So I book my ticket. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna do this, right? So I get to the airport. I'm fucked up because I'm like, shit, this is gonna be such a long plane ride. Like I'm gonna be sick by the time I get there. They kept convincing me too on the phone, like, we're gonna take care of you, don't worry, like, we'll make sure you're not sick when you get here, blah blah blah. But I wasn't, gonna trust that. I was like, I'm gonna get as high as I possibly can before I go, and hopefully I make it, till I get there. So, I was fucked up. I was like nodding off, just like so high. I can't believe I made it through security, to be honest. I had 10 G's too in cash in the bag. Like, oh my God, just so ridiculous, thinking back on it. But, so the plane ride there, obviously it wasn't that bad. It was a 6-hour flight. I had to go to California first. And then from California, these people were going to like pick me up at the San Diego airport and then drive me across the border into Mexico. And I was coming from New York. That's where I was living at the time. I was living upstate New York. So I flew from upstate New York to, so at first I had to go to New York City. And then from New York City, I went to San Diego. And that was like a 6-hour flight. So the whole ordeal took like 8 hours, whatever. By the time I got there, I was starting to get sick, for sure. Like, my legs are kicking a little bit, but at the same time, I'm kind of excited, and I'm, like, nervous, because, I just fucking flew myself out to California, never been there before, to go do this crazy fucking thing. So, yeah, part of me was definitely excited at this point, even though I was, feeling a little dope sick, whatever. It wasn't a big deal. They picked me up. And I realized that there's this other dude, actually, who's going to the clinic, too. And he was waiting, at the same place, like where they told us to go wait outside the airport. I saw this other guy, and he looked just kind of like, our type, that kind of guy. So, I went up and said, what up? And it turned out he was coming to the same place as me. And it was crazy. So we kind of hit it off right away. And he's a cool dude. Definitely, a drug addict. We all are, but he was one of those where it's just like, yeah, he was crazy drug addict. His, like, parents had paid for him to go out there and, whatever. He was much older than me, too, so I was like, damn, your parents paid for you? But whatever, man, hell yeah, that's great. I'm happy you're here and, whatever. So at this point, like I said, I was kind of excited. Now I'm talking to this guy, but so here's the thing. As soon as they pull up to pick us up, the car, like the truck or whatever, is kind of like old and like beat up, you know what I mean? Like, it looks like kind of shitty, and we're like, oh shit, is this our ride? So we fucking get in, and whatever, the dudes are, like Mexican, because obviously we're going to Mexico, and they were very nice people, honestly. It was great. It was just like the car was just like much shittier than like I expected, whatever. But so it was cool. As soon as we got in the car, they're like, how you guys feeling? Like, are you sick or are you doing okay? And I was like, I'm getting a little sick, but like, I'm all right. And the other dude was like, dude, I'm so sick. Like, blah, blah, blah. All of a sudden, like, he was talking to me like he was fine outside. And then, as soon as we get in the car and they asked him, he's like, oh, I'm so sick, and blah, blah, blah. But, this is dope. They had fucking methadone, like, on them, just, like, ready to give us right in the car. So, like, that was pretty dope. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I've never experienced anything like that ever since. That was my first time ever going to any kind of treatment. And then, all the rest of the times I've been to treatment have been in the United States and, like, whatever. So, I've never experienced anything like that. I just, like, showed up, I get in the car, and they just, like, have methadone ready to go to give me, like, not a doctor or anything. It was just a driver, you know what I mean? I was like, this is crazy. So, that's what kicked off the trip. So I'm in my mind, I'm thinking like, man, this is gonna be cake, dude. This is gonna be sick. And they explained that they're gonna keep me on methadone, basically the whole time until the day we take Ibogaine, and then you're just supposedly you're good to go. Like, you don't have to stop taking opiates before you take the Ibogaine for it to work. This is what they told me. This is like, was the whole plan. So I'm thinking this is sick. So anyway, now we're driving and we have to go across the border. And, I thought it was going to be kind of like a bigger deal than it was to get into Mexico. We just fucking drove right in. We didn't even slow down, if I remember correctly. Like, we just drove right through. I guess they had some pass, because they do it all the time. They're with a business that, like, allowed them to, do it, maybe more easily than a normal person. But we just fucking drove right into Mexico. No problem. No questions. Like, it was crazy. Like, I don't even think there was a stop sign. Like I said, we just like cruised right in. And all of a sudden we're in Mexico. I was like, damn, now I'm in Mexico. Shit. And again, I'm feeling good now because they just gave me methadone. You know, I'm chilling in the car. We're just driving. Like, I'm thinking this is going to be sick. Again, you know, I'm kind of excited. Like, so, you know, it was a few hour drive, I want to say. Not too far. Maybe like an hour and a half down the coast. It was beautiful. And we show up at this, like, resort, man. That's the only way I can describe it. It was, like, beautiful. It was like a resort. It's like a house, but kind of like a big house. So, it was a house, actually. I think it was a house before they turned it into this, like, detox rehab Ibogaine clinic. And it was a chill spot, man. It was right down on the ocean. It was beautiful. Like, so I got there and, like, wow, I can't believe this. I've, like, never been in a place so nice, you know. I unpacked my bags. I have this sick room with this awesome, comfortable bed. And, you know, I'm just like, wow, this is awesome. Like, I think, you know, I'm gonna make it. This is gonna be cake. Like, I can do this. Like, you're making everything so comfortable. Like, I just thought it was gonna be easy. I don't know. And I think that was my problem the whole time going into this, is I was looking for an easy way, right? And that's why I wanted to do the Ibogaine, because, you know, you didn't have to get sick. You just take this drug and whatever. It just sounded like this fantasy, like this fun thing, you know? And as I got there and the place is super nice, whatever, the fantasy is just continuing. You know what I mean? So, anyway, the days are now, like, filled with activities. And it was a week-long program. Like I said, it was like 10 G's for this 1 week. And you don't do the Ibogaine until the 5th day. So the first, like, 4 days are just, like, activities and shit. Like, I rode a donkey on the beach in Mexico. Like, that was one of the things we did. Like, all fucked up on methadone and shit. I was just, like, riding a donkey. It's pretty cool. The food was amazing also. Super clean. You know, they fed us a lot of, like, fish and vegetables and stuff. But it had me feeling pretty good. And that kept me nice and medicated. And, like, it was dope. We had some, you know, like, group therapy classes, because it was there, like I said, with a few other people. Like, the one guy, the big guy from New York that I met at the airport. Then there was 2 other guys and 1 girl. And one of those other guys actually ended up becoming a fucking homie of mine, and really a plug. Like, so that's a whole nother video, honestly, though. But that guy ended up being a pretty big part of my life, and it's crazy that I met him at that Ibogaine clinic. Anyway, that's another video, like I said. So they kept us feeling really good. They did nice. We had some group therapy sessions, and they were just kind of like trying to prep us for taking the Ibogaine. And honestly, like, they made it seem like it was easy. Oh man, actually, I gotta tell you about one of the other people that was there with us in the group, because this is really important. This is a big part of the story. So this guy, we called him Hollywood, and he was literally like a movie producer in LA. And he had been on some, like, big name movies. Like, I don't fucking remember him, but, you know, they were like, it was like a big deal. I was like, oh shit, this guy's, like, kind of, like, famous. Like, not to the public, but, like, you know, he had been in some, you know, in the credits of, like, some big name movies or whatever. But I guess he had been, like, on pain medication his whole life, because he had some, like, disease that he was born with. It was just, like, super painful. So he had been on opiates his whole life, and he wanted to get off them. So, like, similar to me, you know, he found Ibogaine and thought it was going to be, like, an easy way. Like, literally, this guy definitely wanted the easy way. You could tell, and that will become more apparent later on in the story. Like, he freaked the fuck out. We're going to get there. So, they're trying to prep us for taking the Ibogaine. They're, like, you know, we're doing these, like, group therapy classes where we're, like, talking about what to expect. And it's led by this therapist who was this really nice woman. She was super cool, but she had never taken it, you know, and she was the one who was prepping us to take the stuff, and she actually had never taken it. And retrospectively, I have a problem with that, because she didn't really know what she was talking about. She had no idea how to prep us for what we were about to go through. So anyway, she's, again, making it kind of seem like peaches and cream. She's like, there might be some discomfort because you won't be able to move and some people throw up, but like it's going to be this spiritual awakening, and you're just going to it's really going to feel amazing, and like you're going to be totally reborn as this new person who like no longer needs drugs in their lives. That's they wanted us to believe that, and that's what they were like teaching us in these groups. And we'd go around and talk about like what maybe our fears were, or like our history, and just no, stupid shit like that, normal stuff for a detox rehab, but kind of again like focused on us taking this drug and like prepping us to take the drug, but not really expressing really how big of a deal this shit was about to be. Like they just didn't do a good enough job, in my opinion, explaining like how intense this shit was going to be. So anyway, we also, as the group, thought that we were going to be taking the shit at the house that we had been staying at, because we all got comfortable there, and it was like seemed like the logical thing to do, right? But no, and we didn't find out to the day of that we had to go drive into Tijuana to like the medical clinic where they were going to administer the Ibogaine, and it was like a hospital in the middle of Tijuana, and it was crazy, like honestly. So we find out that we had to do that basically the day of, and it kind of like put a shock in all of our systems, because we were like, oh shit, like we're not doing it here, we have to go somewhere else. And it started it off just in a weird kind of vibe, honestly. And now on the way to this medical clinic, it was like an hour drive probably from like the beachside place where we're at to the medical place in downtown Tijuana. And on the way, our car broke down. Remember the shitty car I was talking about? They picked us up at the airport. It broke down on the way to do the Ibogaine. And now we're like broken down on the side of the road in downtown Tijuana. And it's just bad vibes, The car's packed. All of us are starting to get sick because they hadn't dosed us with methadone, because you're not supposed to take the methadone the day of the Ibogaine, apparently. That was their protocol. So, we're all starting to feel sick, and the car fucking breaks down on the way. And we're like, damn. Like, and they started like talking in Spanish up in front, and like one of the guys says that he was saying something about like bad vibes, like bad juju, like this isn't good. So we're sitting on the side of the road. Finally another car comes and picks us up and like takes us the rest of the way, but we were there for like 45 minutes to an hour just sitting there, all of us just sick as fuck. Like it was pretty shitty, just like anticipating what was about to come. So finally we pull up to this place. It's actually like kind of nice. It's pretty secure. Like there's this gate. They open the gate. We like roll into the garage. The garage shuts down. Then we go in up into this like hospital-like setting. But it was cool. It was like they had this projector screen with like these like lights and stuff in the middle. And then the beds, there was 3 on each side. Or were there 4? No, there were 3 beds on each side. And then in the center was this like light projector thing that like you can like look at from laying in the beds. So we get in there and we're like, holy shit, like this is it, huh? There's just like they're like medical beds, like I said, on each side, 3 and 3. And so they just we each got a bed. I was in the middle on the right side. Hollywood was right to my right. Remember I talked about that guy Hollywood? He was right to my right. Then there was this other younger kid to my left. And then the other side of the room was like my homie that I'll talk about in a different video. And like the rest of the people, I honestly don't even remember that. Oh, and this other dude that was mad cool, whatever. Not super important right now to this part of the story. We get to our beds and they're like, all right, like you guys ready? And we're like, oh shit, I guess so. So then they give us the Ibogaine. And, it was, waiting game at that point didn't kick in right away, okay? But we're just sitting there, and they gave us, like, iPads, and we're all just, like, laying there waiting. We're all dope sick, too, so it's kind of uncomfortable. We're also in this new weird environment. It was just all kind of weird. And then, I don't know, it was the craziest thing, like, as it's starting to kick in, and I start hearing and seeing people like throw up around me, and I'm like, oh shit, it's starting to, here it comes, here it comes. Fucking like a million cop cars go whizzing by this hospital place, and I'm like, holy shit. And I don't know why, but in my mind I thought like the cartel was coming to kill us. I'm not gonna lie, that's just like, that's what came into my mind. Because, you know, we're in downtown Tijuana, fucking, you know, drugs, obviously, whatever. So I'm thinking in my mind, like, that's the cartel, and, you know, whatever, they're coming, and all this shit. And obviously it was just craziness, but like, that's what kicked off this trip. It was like literally more cop cars than I've ever heard in my entire life go by at once. Like, like, to this day, I don't know if I was hallucinating half of them or if it was real, but like, it was a fuckload, okay? And that's like what's kicking off this trip. After those sirens stopped, that's when I started throwing up. And the shit tasted like licorice, kind of like black licorice coming back up, the Ibogaine, because they gave it to us in capsules, so we didn't really taste it. But when I threw it back up, you better believe you taste that shit. And it's nasty. It's like kind of like black licorice. That's the vibe, kind of has this licoricey, just kind of off-putting taste to it. Bitter black licorice, okay? As soon as I start throwing it up, and, you know, I'm starting to get into it now. I'm feeling like a little like I can't control my body very well, and I'm like losing coordination. Shit's starting to get a little weird, and I'm like, all right, man, like I've tripped a lot. Like, I'm ready for this. I can handle it. Like, let's go. So I just try and relax, and I like lay back, and I put my little eye things down, and I'm starting to get into it now. I'm like trying to meditate, and I'm trying to like focus on being positive and changing. I really was at this point. And then all of a sudden, man, Hollywood, that guy, remember the movie executive, whatever, bullshit guy, super rich motherfucker, starts freaking out, dude, right next to me. He's probably like 6 feet to the right in the bed next to me. He starts freaking out, like crying for his mom, begging it to stop, like just going nuts. And like I'm like, holy shit, is this real? Because like at this point it's a little hard to differentiate like what was really happening and what I was like imagining, kind of, because it's definitely like pretty strong psychedelic effects at this point. But like, no, this dude was definitely literally screaming and crying for his mom right there. And I like took my things off, and I'm like looking over, and I'm like, is this really happening right now? Like, no fucking way. He's freaking out. The nurses are coming over to him, and they're like, what do we, you know, can we help you? He starts trying to get up, and he falls over, and because he can't, because the shit like fucks with your body, like your body control, he can't move. He's freaking out. He's trying to like get away because he like, you know, you like can't handle it, man. Full grown man. He was probably like in his 40s. He's crying. He's like literally crying, freaking out. They end up hitting him with like benzos, IV benzos, I think Ativan. And they gave him like 15 milligrams. I just remember hearing the number because I was like astonished by how much they were hitting him with. Like, I was like, 15 milligrams? God damn. Like, you know? But they hit him with 15 mgs IV of Ativan. And like, he kind of calms down a little bit for a second. And I'm like, all right, like, I guess this is over. I can relax now. No, I can't relax. Because the other kid now, to the left of me, the younger kid that I talked about briefly, whatever, he starts freaking out now. He starts crying and stuff. And now this is a course, I'm pretty sure, of like several hours. It's really hard to, you know exactly the time frame. Because like I said, like I was tripping fucking nuts. Like the show was like very intense. But I couldn't focus on myself like at all, because first we had Hollywood have his freak out and like begging it to stop, and this whole like drama going on. They end up shooting him up with the Ativan. Like I said, that calms him down for a little bit. And then I swear to God, as soon as he calms down, this other kid, man, starts crying. And this is like not like the dramatic Hollywood crying. Like, this kid's like upset crying. Like he sounds like something is really wrong, you know? And it hits me, dude, you know, because when you hear someone like in pain like that, like you're gonna obviously feel something unless you're a fucking sociopath, right? And we're on these drugs, and he's like whimpering and crying. dude, and he started reliving, I guess, being molested when he was younger. And he started like describing it out loud, like he was talking to somebody, even though he wasn't talking to anybody. He was just like, that's what was going on. And then the nurses came over to him and were like trying to calm him down. And then fucking Hollywood starts going up again, freaking out, screaming that he needs more Ativan. He's like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. I need more Ativan. So then they had to go back over and tend to him. And they gave him another 15 milligrams of Ativan. I lost track of how many times they gave him fucking 15 milligrams of Ativan. But it had to be, by the end, like 100 milligrams, dude. Like, they just kept hitting him with it because he was freaking out. But then this other poor kid, man, was reliving, like, the worst trauma of his entire life, like, out loud, just absolutely dying, you know? Like, just, and I'm in the middle of both of them. Just, like, absorbing all of this pain. Literally. That's the only way I can describe it. I feel like I was just absorbing their pain. And it was brutal. And it just went on for hours and hours. And I couldn't escape it. I kept trying to relax and like whatever. And as soon as I would feel a little bit like kind of calm, one of the two would start at it again. And it was brutal. And this was like a 18-hour long probably ordeal. The drug lasted and lasted and lasted. I don't remember exactly what they say the half-life of it is. But it's like a 24-hour ordeal. Like, they gave it to us at night, and I didn't come back to normal till like the next night. So it was like, it was 24 hours. And we didn't sleep at all. It was just, man, it was fucking crazy. It was absolutely brutal. At the end of it, when we were all like coming down and kind of like the effects were wearing off, normally, I guess, the groups of people like get up and like, they had a pool, I guess, there, like up on the roof and some shit. None of us even got out of bed. We like couldn't get up because we were all so just like fucked by the experience we just had. So we just laid there in our beds, not eating, like nothing. We just laid there, all 6 of us. It was really depressing and brutal, honestly. I didn't feel much drug withdrawal at this point, though, so part of me felt like it had kind of worked. But I wasn't sure because I also felt just, wiped from the experience, just totally wiped. So finally, the time comes for them to come pick us up and bring us back to the house on the beach where we had been staying. And I was like, thank God, man. Like, I need to get out of this place. Like, it's just the energy in there was just poison, like I just needed to get out of there. I also really wanted a fucking cigarette at that point too. Forgot about that. It was supposedly too that the experience would help you quit smoking cigarettes. I had no intention of quitting really when I went into it. And it didn't make me want to quit cigarettes. That was the first sign I think that it wasn't going to work for me. Was immediately I wanted a cigarette. It was just so fucking stressful. I wanted to get out of there, and I wanted a goddamn cigarette. So they finally picked us up. They brought us back to the house, and I convinced one of the house staff people, whatever, to go buy me cigarettes because like, dude, come on, I need some fucking cigarettes, dude. And he was cool, man. He went and he got them for me, and I basically just sat outside and chain smoked. I just trying to process what had happened. Everybody else just went back into the rooms and just like, laid there. Because we were there now for another, I think it was like 2 days. Remember, it was the 5th day we took the Ibogaine. And it was a 7-day thing. So we get back on the 6th day and everybody just goes to their rooms. I guess it was 8 days total, I think. Because we left on the 8th day. But so everybody, we get back to the house on the beach. I have, the homie guy who works there go get me cigarettes. Everybody just goes back to the room, immediately lays down and is like going to sleep. I can't fucking sleep. I'm all like kind of amped up, agitated, whatever. I'm starting to feel like a little kind of withdrawal too. And I'm like, shit, what the fuck is going on? Like I thought this wasn't supposed to, be like this, but I'm still trying to stay positive but I'm just chain smoking cigarettes. I'm just sitting out, back out basically at this little patio area where you could smoke. And I was just sitting there by myself smoking because nobody else could get out of bed. Everybody was like in bed, whatever. So I was just out there trying to process this shit, just fucking chain smoking cigarettes. It was honestly like awful. This was a really, really bad point, because remember, I thought this was like a fantasy before this, I was like, oh, this is gonna be easy, this is gonna be dope, and then the reality, it happened. The trip was fucking brutal, and then afterward, now I'm starting to feel sick again, it didn't even work. So I'm chain smoking cigarettes. The dudes are like asking me, like, are you okay? Because I'm not sleeping at all. And they're like, dude, honestly, I'm like not okay. Like, I don't feel good. And they're like, all right, man, like, we strongly recommend that you, stay in this program. They wanted me to stay for like another 2 weeks, like basically go to their extended care, which I should have done, 100% should have done. But I was a fucking hard-headed idiot. I wanted to get home. I had shit to do, right? Important shit. And I declined. I didn't stay in the extended stay. And you know what? Maybe if I had, maybe it would have worked. But I didn't. So basically, I just chain smoked cigarettes. Tried talking, with a few people. But it was just hard to have conversations with anybody after that experience. It was just so crazy that none of us really wanted to talk to each other. So basically, after time was up, it was time to go home. Time to fly back to New York. I flew back to New York. Honestly, this video is getting kind of long. I'm definitely going to do a part 2 to this because I didn't get to everything. But long story short, well, it's still a long story. It's not short. But I flew home, got back to New York, ended up getting high, man, within, I'd say, 36 hours. So didn't work for me. And a lot of that was my fault. I should have done the extended stay. I, should have changed my lifestyle. Should have done a lot of things that I didn't. But that was my Ibogaine experience. It's a fucking crazy story. Wildest experience probably still to this day in my life. Just the misery that I experienced. Not even my own misery at all. It's just from these other people. But the way that I experienced it personally because of this drug, like the way I really felt it, it was just incredible. It was like nothing I can, describe, honestly. It was just very painful. It was very painful. It took me a long time to recover from it. And honestly, I think that's why I started using again so quickly. I just wanted to numb out. But, that's where I'm going to end it for this. We're definitely going to do another part to this. I have way more to say on this topic. I didn't even talk about my homie that I met there. That ended up being a big part of my life. Barely mentioned him. So that's definitely going to be a part 2, probably even a part 3. But guys, please subscribe. I got so many stories, so much entertainment for y'all. Tips and tricks, all kinds of things. Hey, till the next time. Peace.